Hey Diego, how are you?
Doing great, Alfredo. Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here this beautiful morning here in Miami and here in Costa Rica for our self-guru coffee chat. Just to give some background about Diego, he's an Argentinian who lives in Costa Rica now, as I mentioned. He's an engineer, but also an MIT MBA. He's been very successful building companies in the data space. He's been a CEO, or he's a CEO for startups and grown-ups. But I'll make a pause here and let himself introduce a little bit more, and then share a high-level overview about his journey and his startup business.
Thank you, Alfredo. Thank you. Yeah, so you said it right. I'm originally from Argentina, engineer, then met a Costa Rican in Spain in a Brazilian party, and I ended up deciding that we were going to live in Costa Rica because I'm the boss in the family, as you know how that works. But yeah, I'm happily living now in Costa Rica, and yeah, I've been through my career enjoying a lot about bringing technologies or new companies to market, and from well, I think we're going to talk about that, but yeah, from different spaces, mainly usually in the data space. And glad to be here and share some experiences and learn from you. Actually, I'm eager to ask you a lot of questions about what I'm facing these days. So let's go.
Sure, definitely. So, all right, so let's jump into it. Let's start with a little bit with customer acquisition, which we know is a very important pain point of startups. You want to have it as low as possible, but as well as efficient as possible. So, and I know you even focused on B2B. So can you share how do you find information on your potential customers?
Yeah, so in order to answer this one, let me give you a quick idea of my background and some of the things I've been involved in.
Sure.
In the case of, so I started one company some time ago. Its name was, or is Junar. Junar is in the open data space, right? That was originally a consumer product, trying to get people the data tools they needed. It ended up being a SaaS solution for governments, right?
Okay.
So B2G, not even B2B, B2G. And in this specific case, when we're thinking about how to acquire clients, the problem was kind of somehow easy in one aspect, which was we knew who the clients were. All the cities in the US, all the cities in Latin America, all the federal governments needed something. Mm-hmm. So finding data about your clients was pretty easy. I mean, who's the city manager? You can find that in any website, right? Not always super easy or organized, not in a format that it's easy to use.
Agreed. I hear you.
CRM. But yeah, you would find all the PDFs with all the data that you needed. And so finding the data of the contacts of the people that you need to reach was super easy in that case. Understanding the dynamic of that industry, of a local government or a federal government, and who makes the decisions and how they make decisions and what pricing can they afford to pay without doing a lot of complications, or what was simple. So I would say that when I think about finding information about clients and thinking about customer acquisition, one thing is filling the pipeline of names and contacts. That in that case was pretty easy. Understanding the industry dynamics, the government dynamics, how they make decisions, who has to be involved, how to conquer the different stakeholders. That was very interesting. Let's put it that way. So yeah, when thinking about finding information, again, one thing is the contacts, the other is the dynamic of how decisions are made in your target accounts or type of clients.
Hope that makes sense. No, that's helpful. And I think it's great to have a strategy, our overarching strategy to go about that. Sometimes we are so focused on quick wins, on short-term results, Can you share a successful customer acquisition hack or a tip, if you will?
Yeah, look, I'm not so sure if I can give you one specific hack about customer acquisition. There's a bunch of things that you have to do well in order, as you said, to be able to make that happen. One thing I usually did and work with my teams is you need to avoid anything that will bring you anxiety in the process, right? So usually when you're in a B2B, in this case was B2G, and if you're a startup or if you're in an industry where you're shaping the industry or the industry is not yet defined, right? Finding your first clients is crucial, right? And you need those first clients. And I remember in these open data days, and then I'm going to refer to other cases, right? Because I'm doing something also in the data space with a services company. But finding the initial clients is super crucial. You need these believers, as I usually say, not venture capital, your venture clients, those guys that are willing to go and risk and go with you, right? So once you find one of those that say yes, they are interested in listening, you're so anxious to getting them on board. And sometimes that anxiety plays not well in the whole process and in the whole negotiation. So usually whenever I'm thinking about how to make this happen, again, not a hack, but it's really think about building this pipeline solidly so that you have a bunch of clients in different phases. You're not solely focused on one or two or three that you have to close, and you have your anxiety, if you want, in these early stages of any company, spread out throughout the whole pipeline, and then that makes things flow easier for the team. Again, I've seen lots of teams that get too anxious about closing one, two, or three, and I think that having a solid process, having a good pipeline, being good at building the base of this pipeline, the initial phase of that pipeline, so that then you are not kind of depending on one, two, three, or a few amount of leads. I think it's a good way. So one is that one, as I said, being able to have this volume. And then the other, of course, and I'm facing that today, I'm an advisor to a robotics company that is also starting in a new industry and trying to understand how this is going to work out. Being able to figure out a multi-level strategy of dealing with these clients, right? So once you are able to get in touch with some of those, you see some interest, then being able to build the different channels, the technical guy with the technical guy, the sales guy with the more administration / finance, whatever is the role of your stakeholder, being able to map out the different players and playing this multi-level scheme, of course, is crucial as well. So yeah, I would say no specific hack, Alfredo, I'm sorry, but maybe being able to lower anxiety and then playing this multi-level strategy makes a lot of sense.
And this is great. I think, I'm glad you bring that perspective. And this is the spirit of these coffee chats, right? Share different perspectives, point of views, and obviously for the benefit of the entire startup community. So thanks for that. In terms of the business mindset, I know you've been around quite a few type of businesses. Can you share which type of business attracts you the most? Is that services? Is that products? Is there any industry in particular?
Look, well, so I'm going to start with, it has to be technology. In my case, I would not be able, actually, in some dreams, I own a restaurant and I'm happy with, I love chatting with people. So someday that will happen probably. But other than that,
keep an eye on that.
You're invited to cook some good Peruvian food.
Definitely.
So, look, technology is a must, right? It has to be technology / high-speed moving type of industry that I like a lot. So that's the number one thing I would say. But then the other piece I really love, I enjoy too much is when it's the early stages of industries. And I think I spoke about Junar. Junar was in the open data space. At the beginning, we had only one competitor. Then there were a few more competitors. But when we were going to governments talking about open data, they didn't know what that was about. So it was getting 10 no's to then getting one maybe, and then getting all those maybes and finding one, oh yes, I'm interested, and then learning about what was going on. A second company I founded was in the data science services. It's called Ixpantia, and it's focused on Latin America. And even though data science in the US for the big companies is super well known, if you go to find SMBs in Latin America, and yeah, they have data and they hear the buzzword about data science, but they have no clear path to creating value with that data. And then again, what I like about those industries is it's not yet clearly well defined how to go to market. It's not, you're not selling another CRM, you're not selling another ERP, it's something that is being defined, and you're learning in every no that you get, in every yes that you get, in every maybe that you get. You're trying to read how this industry will shape. And that I love when it's in the early stages of any industry and you have to learn a lot.
Oh, perfect. Thanks a lot. Thanks for that. Now, switching gears to what I would call soft skills. You know, in terms of being productive, can you share some insights, some tips about productivity tools?
Yeah, look, I tried so many things here, and every once and then I like reading books that are not business related, but every once and then you read one of those books that talk about that, and it's something that is in constant evolution. I would say that lately I'm in my late 40s these days. So what I learned is that the best thing for me is to, number one, of course, think strategically for a while. Now, every month, I would say I have a couple hours blocked to think longer term. But then on the week-to-week basis or day-to-day basis, I like starting the week with which are the things that I have to accomplish to be able to say on Friday at the end of the day that this was a solid week. And that applies to day, right? Every day I wake up and I do when I get to my computer is which are the 3 things that I have to accomplish that day. And so that's kind of the overarching way in which I approach being productive. First defining kind of strategically every once and then tactically week to week or day to day. And what I've been using lately, I'm not gonna say that that's the only tool, but I've been using Asana lately. I like it a lot. Being able to map these things and then be able to cross the tasks that you've done, and being able to share with the team kind of the priorities for the week, and then you can see reports on how things are going. I think that, again, there should be other tools, I guess, but with Asana, I've been able to kind of map this strategically overarching way of approaching productivity using a tool that makes sense.
Excellent. And going back to the point about the type of businesses that you're interested. Some people like to do it themselves. Some others like to find co-founders. Some others like to find a tribe of mentors. You know, when you go about a new business idea, what's your preference style-wise?
So I would say that there are a couple of things that for me make a lot of sense when you start a company, right? Number one, absolute number one, it has to be something that you love doing, that you would do for free, right? I remember, I mean, both in the data science company, now with exNamutek, and I was eager to learn about FinTech, or I'm eager to learn about FinTech. And then in the case of this robotics company, I enjoy what's going to happen in the future with robots and humans. So I think that one crucial thing when you're starting something, and more if it's a startup environment, is you have to really love this thing. You have to really enjoy reading about that over the weekend. If it's work, it's probably, and you're thinking a quick exit in 3 years, that's not going to work. I've not seen many people that can make that happen. So love is one thing, and I'm going to go for the cliche as well. Team is crucial. People that you really enjoy working with, that you, I mean, you're going to have fights, you're going to have discussions, you're not going to always agree, but people that you respect, that you like being with, that you enjoy interacting with, that you respect their points of view. So love for the topic, really enjoy the team. I think those two are super crucial, super crucial.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I've been fortunate in my corporate career to have really good teams and work with great people. Since I pivoted to the startup world the past year and a half, that has been even more important and crucial, because in the early stages, you really need to enjoy what you're doing. If not, you'll be miserable. And most importantly, work with people that you can trust and respect. You know, and egos will happen, personality will happen, that's fine. But, you know, trust on each other and verify.
And I'm gonna say something. I mean, my wife, when we raised funds and we went to live in Silicon Valley with my family, my wife, my daughter, back then, I would go with this open data speech and talk, and go and say, well, I'm gonna go and visit this, I don't know, 5, 6 cities today, right? And I would go there, and after the whole week counting what happened, and then I visited 25 cities, and this is what they told me, and my wife would be with me, and she would be saying, wow, how can you really be able to wake up again and go and visit others? I mean, out of 25, you were getting a couple that were kind of interested, right? And you really have to love what you're doing. You really have to be interested in learning about what's the process, or else if you don't love it, if you don't enjoy what's happening or the future of that industry, it's difficult. I mean, if you're going to get so many no's, to be able to be resilient and stay there. So yeah.
Right. You have to kiss a lot of frogs before.
Yeah.
As they say, no, definitely. And to that point, the drive can be there because it's a passion of yours, but still you can get really stressed. You can even be burnout. So how do you avoid burnout? I was saying that question, so I need to ask first. We are 40 something, so we know landlines. Is that a landline / guitar?
No, it's a great question, man, because you usually, and probably we are X generation dudes, we put a lot of energy into what we love, right. Sometimes too much. I've been kind of awakened by my wife and family at some point. Hey, it's weekend. You have to relax and enjoy a little bit. So I think that being able to balance your life is crucial. In my case, more than or other than balancing, of course, I'm trying to have, and more now that I'm, as I said, in my late 40s, enjoying the good things of life and spending good time with friends and family. And I was going to point there, the guitar for me is amazing. I've played the guitar since I was 15, I think. I played in a couple bands at some point, always pretty bad. I'm not a real guitar player, right? But, you know, it's amazing for me when I'm kind of after 3 hours of being sitting down, or I like standing up and working on my stand-up desk there, spending 5 minutes with my guitar and just improvising a little bit, that kind of brings me balance in the hour to hour or day to day. So I think that having those things that allow you to disconnect for brief times. Now I've seen a lot of people that use this Calm app so that they can really get out of what they're doing and then come back. I think that's super important to be able to really have a good level of energy at a constant rate, if you want.
No, since we're, and no, that's great. And since we're talking about music, which is a personal passion of me as well, can you share with us a favorite album or a favorite band that always comes to you when you need, you need it?
Look,
We can talk for 2 hours about that for sure, I know. But
exactly, I was going to say, let's have another session now just to talk about music. But
right.
look, I would say that I love these amazing guitar players that also sing and have this ability to bring poetry into what they're doing while they're playing guitar, right? And so that's a lovely mix in my case, right? I admire amazing guitar players. Mark Knopfler is one that I can listen to any album. Alchemy, you put Alchemy now here, and I'm sitting down 2 hours there listening that. So Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits, Alchemy in particular, I love that album. It's amazing. I also enjoy, actually, currently, I'm enjoying a lot John Mayer. John Mayer is amazing. I mean, this guy can play guitar amazingly well and can, the how to say, letras.
Lyrics.
The lyrics are amazing. So between the lyrics and the guitar playing, yeah, that's what I love. How about you, man? Which are the ones that you are?
So I have a sweet spot for Seattle bands. I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. I love music in general and rock in particular, but I think the sweet spot is the late 80s, early 90s alternative rock. You know, and the 4 Seattle bands, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden are the ones that I go back to and finally I started playing guitar, learning and playing guitar. Very basic, very rudimentary right now, more to come. But yeah, I love the blend of, you know, lyrics and powerful guitars that came in that area. And, you know,
guitar jamming session coming soon then.
Definitely, yeah. Going back to our soft skills area, in terms of resilience, and I know you were kind of sharing your secret power and your drive, but sometimes we fail, sometimes we have setbacks, especially in the entrepreneurial world. So can you share with us your biggest setback and how you come back from it?
Yeah, look, perhaps one thing that it's important to say about building resilience, we kind of discussed it, right? If it's something that you love, then of course,
right,
you can bear a lot of weight and you're gonna be fine. But the other thing I think in my case specifically helps me a lot, and I have a couple of friends that, I mean, they have fun with what I'm probably gonna say, but I love learning, understanding things, learning more when it's about a topic that you love, right? One other thing that we didn't talk about now, and probably now you also say that you play tennis, but I usually, I mean, I love tennis. I love this idea of getting into a court and then finding someone that you don't know. You're starting to hit some balls, and it's a tournament, so you're learning about your opponent, and then you're figuring what is it that you're going to do during the match, right? And then over the match, you're learning how he's reacting or she's reacting to what you're doing. So learning and understanding is something that I really like a lot. What I was going to say that it's funny is that when I lose a match, I'm happy. I have a good friend, Mohit. He lives there in Florida. One day I'll introduce you to him. He's great. And he's always amazed. You're happier when you lose than when you win. And the truth is, it is. I mean, when you lose, it's someone that was better than you probably, or you didn't play your best day. So, I mean, you can learn so much more when you lose than when you win. That losing is not too bad, right? So getting back to setbacks and keys to being resilient, I think that if you love what you're doing and you love learning, the rest will happen. I would say that a lot of setbacks, I mean, in the case of Junar, we had them all, right? From investors that probably at some point didn't quite understand the phase in which we were as a company. Then a new investor or a new group of investors came. We needed to find a US CEO. That was the recipe that they brought. We brought the US CEO. It didn't work, so it was a mess. Then cleaning up things. By the way, then we had other setbacks. We were one thing I have to say is I'm a bit idealistic, right? So everything has to be for fair play, good reasons, transparency. So we were in this open data space and we were pitching open data so that you can build transparent communities and innovation. And we've had government officials saying, okay, so what's in it for me, right? So
Right.
I think with Junior, we had all the setbacks you can imagine. And at some point we were without money and running the company. I would say that coming back from those, it's always a matter of really being eager of finding what can you learn about what didn't work, and then being able to get those learnings into your DNA so that you don't make that happen. You don't do that again. So again, if it's a setback and you're facing that as I was saying before, in tennis, you lose, you learn, you continue. That's probably the best way to approach things in my personal view.
No, thank you very much. I want to disappoint you because I'm a very lousy tennis player. I like the sport. I like watching it a lot. I've played it, but yeah, not for. But I agree with you. I like the analogy and the explanation. I believe that if you have a setback, if you fail, or even you win, and you understand what happened, that's the most important learning, you know, understanding what happened and what you learn from that, and why that happened, and use that learning for future, for the future. So,
and I would say on that, sorry, Alfredo, just to build on that one, more for what you are up to with Serp Guru and what I love, which is all this go-to-market and how to bridge that technology to market, right? I think it's all about testing things and really taking those tests in a very scientific way, if you want. So this is what I did, and I tried it 10 times, and this, try to quantify the phases or so it's a lot of experimenting, and in those experiments done in an organized way, learning as much as you can so that you're better prepared for your next experiment. And then you can compare experiments. And I think that you have to be not only eager about learning, but also kind of systematic about applying those learnings so that you can really get to market and conquer clients faster, right?
No, thanks for that. That's very helpful. And I hope you keep following us. And for the audience here, also feel free to follow us on Twitter as we build in public our firm. One more question, two more questions I have for today, Diego. Is there anything else that you wish you knew when you started to be an entrepreneur that you would advise to your younger self that you know now?
That's a good one. Look, there are a couple of things, but the one that is also a bit of a cliche, but I think that when I was early on in my career as an entrepreneur, I thought I had superpowers and I was going to be able to face it. But co-founder and the right team, I think that is crucial, right? And it's not only about, oh, I enjoy this guy or it's a person I like. Are personalities okay for what you're trying to build?
Right.
Have you talked about what's going to happen if a potential exit happens there? Are you going to kind of be aligned in what you want for life? I mean, there's some people that will never want to sell to a company and become I don't know, another employee of a bigger corporation. Or there's people that don't necessarily like following the rules of, hey, you got investors, you have to talk to them and respect that they trusted you. So I think that there are a couple of questions that you need to ask when you're co-founding a company that kind of build some scenarios of what could happen. And then you make the decision, yes, this is the right guy for the type of thing that you're trying to build, which will imply that we're going to have investors and that at some point we may face an exit and that we may need to interact with certain type of profiles, etc. I think that co-founder asking the right questions, kind of building scenarios of the future and ensuring that you're aligned, that's something that I didn't do in my initial stages, that I do every time now, whenever I'm thinking about either joining a team or starting something. Because if not, then you may raise funds and that was not the right option for that, or you may go in different directions at some point.
Got it. No, thanks a lot. My final question would be, is there any fun fact that people don't know about you?
I have this talk, how do you say that in English? But this obsession that if I start a movie or if I start a book, no matter how bad the movie is or the book is, my wife is already asleep, kids are already asleep, whatever. I finished kids' movies that kids were not enjoying. And so the number one thing is, yeah, I have to finish a movie that I started. There's no way I wouldn't be able to sleep if I don't finish the movie. And then the other thing is that it's difficult. I mean, there are probably I like a lot of movies. Out of all the movies I've seen, I think there are a couple that I would say they're bad movies. I think that there's something good in almost every movie. I like them all. I'm the worst critic of movies. So whenever you want to know if you have to watch a movie or a series, don't ask me, because I'm always going to say, yes, it's pretty good. You may hate it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thanks for that. I know those are the questions from my side. I know you had a few questions, so I'm happy to answer any questions, if any, you have for me, or for Sarria in particular.
I was going to ask you, out of all the interviews that you've been doing, I don't know how many CROs, Chief Revenue Officers, you interviewed. What have you found as kind of a couple of things in common that CROs, because we're talking about this, right? Getting a company maybe in the early stages and then defining all the paths to go to market and be successful at it. So what have you found are the common patterns of successful CROs, right? Of all the people that think about go-to-market, what are those 2 or 3 things that you find are common ground?
That's a great question. So we started, just to give some background, we started doing the coffee chats in December. So we are about 2 months old, if you will. And for the most part, the audience has been the co-founders who usually wear many hats. So many of them are CROs of their companies. In a couple of occasions, there's been CROs with that role in particular too. So an additional point of context is Sarria is trying to solve the pain that startups have when they want to have an organic acquisition in the early stages. And to solve that pain, we are talking to the business people in particular. So to answer your question now, it would be common traits is really knowing what problem they are solving for, knowing how to go to their audience and talking to their users early on. You know, I've seen that as a common trend, as a common trait, and that's giving them perspective in terms of not only that what's working or what can work on their solution to have the product market fit, but also what is not working. You know, what hypothesis might be thrown to the trash immediately. And I've heard very candid conversations about that. And that's been a common theme in our conversations, but most importantly, that has been combined with the soft skill side. What I've seen, to your point, is a strong focus on who you're working with, who your co-founder is, and have that synergy to go and solve for the problem that you identified. And doesn't have to be a huge problem. Doesn't have to have potential million users. It needs to have a limited number of users that you know have that and go about that. So to answer your question, it's a blend between knowing your stuff and then finding the right team that can implement that. And that would involve failures along the way, but learning from those failures and testing to the extreme to apply those learnings.
Okay, no, great. And let me ask you one other last
Sure.
one, and then I let you continue with your day. We can grab another coffee if you want, and then continue.
Definitely. This is the first one of many more. Yes.
The other question I was going to ask, it's similar to the one you asked me. You asked me about hacks, something that, I don't know, I found that really works, or out of all the interviews and people you've met, startups and always thinking go to market, has there been any one or two hacks that you say, wow, this is a cool one? Because most of the times people talk about general things like the ones I discussed and things that you may consider that are common sense for building a pipeline and volume, but have you found any really amazing hack, either in B2B or B2C, they say, wow, these guys really, really, really were very creative, or they found something that was amazing?
It's another good question. And I would share a personal hack, which is manage your calendar actively. I know we are so busy that you cannot afford that sometimes, but actively means block time for yourself to think and plan. Also block time for following up. And to that point, I think the most important hack, or the most important, one of the key important things that I've seen, and it's not cliche, that has been helpful for me is following up in a strategic way. Sometimes people ghost you, they disappear, they don't reply, they don't respond. Not because they don't care, because they were busy doing something else. And sometimes a second try, a second follow-up works really well. And I've seen that, I've seen results of that. I've seen people responding, people following up, and I think that would be the hack that I would advise. It's planning, blocking, which sounds generic, yes, but I guess the follow-up piece, many people miss that. Many people are so focused on response rate, conversion rate, working the funnel towards a sale, but they don't work out all leads that might have been busy at that point. And now with the pandemic this past year, people are so narrowly focused on specific things that a no at what point doesn't mean a no permanently. Would be my hack, if you will.
Yeah, no response is not a rejection. Think strategically and intelligently about how to go back and do a smart follow-up. I agree with you. And being able to be smart about how you do follow-up and trying to understand why the other person may be super busy and then bringing some nugget of value when you do follow-up that may make sense for what they're doing. Yeah, amazing, good, fantastic. Hey, great coffee session. We have to repeat that with guitar and rackets, and then yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you, Diego. Thank you very much for the time, for the insights. We look forward to having you in the future, and wish you best of luck in your future entrepreneurial endeavors.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Alfredo. Best of luck, and hope to see you soon.
Likewise.